Another thing about this Greta situation is she was trying to bring in 50 kilograms. 50 kilograms, that's it. When you look at what Israel has brought in aid into Gaza and other countries, it's tons and tons and tons of aid, mainly in food supplies, such as flour, like she wanted to bring. Then she was going to bring with this whole show and 12 people in the ocean for days. And what was she going to do? 50 kilograms of flour. Which, by the way, I think I saw the IDF is actually going to add into our trucks that go into Gaza with our aid. So it's going to get there in the end.
Hi, everyone. We have been taking groups to Israel for about 16 years, as many of you will know. And we've taken 4 post October 7th, and we've got more lined up. We've got one in July, October, February, and so on to go out and help. And we've had lots of people giving different perspectives on different angles of what's been going on in Israel since October 7th. Whether that be from the medical side, the military side, or impact on people personally, survivors from Nova Music Festival, for example. And one area you don't hear so much about is maybe on the tourism side. What's the impact on the economy within Israel since October 7th? And so we've got a friend that we've known for a number of years now. He has to deal with us taking groups out there, and I'm sure we provide many headaches along the way. And they take care of a lot of our logistics on the ground. So our guest today is Avishai Futerman. Hopefully that was a good pronunciation. But Avishai, could you just say a bit about where you're from and what you do?
Yeah, so thank you for having me, Andrew and Daphne. It's a pleasure to be here. As you said, I am from Israel, born and raised here my whole life. My parents actually came here from the UK and from Canada, so that's where my accent is, somewhere in the Atlantic. Nobody knows exactly where. But I've grown up here in Israel, lived here my entire life, and I work, as you said, in the tourism industry. So I work for Sarel Tours, a local, pretty large Israeli tour company, hosting in a good year thousands of Christian groups, mainly coming for all kinds of Israel tours.
And for people that listen to this, maybe they want to find out more about what you're doing. Where can they do that?
Yeah, so you're free to look up our website if you Google Sarel Tours. In Google, our website will come up, our social media will come up. We've got quite a few different websites, as we're a large company, not only in tourism, in buses and real estate and hotels. So you'll find a lot of information about us online.
Okay, and I will put. I'll find some of those links. Like you said, there's a lot of them for you guys.
Quite
But
a
I'll
few.
find some of those and put them in the description box, so they're ready for people to go and check out. Maybe we can start with some of your backstory. How did you end up getting involved within the tourism industry within Israel?
Yeah. So I started about 5 years ago now at Sarel Media. It's another company of Sarel Tours where we host all kinds of productions. We have beautiful studios overlooking Jerusalem. We host TBN Israel, which is worth checking out their YouTube channel. They've done a lot of news reporting since October 7th. So I started there, actually doing digital marketing, nothing to do with tourism, Facebook ads and Google ads and that whole world. I was doing that for 2 years. And then I moved to Sarel Tours, our tourism branch, our biggest branch in the company, where I was helping with marketing mainly. That's where a lot of my connections are from, traveling all over the world, also to London, the UK, US, and other places, and trying to create new connections with travel partners who could bring groups to Israel. And then it's a year and a half ago now, a few months after October 7th, which I'm sure we'll talk about, happened, I was asked to replace a former department manager, who of course you know very well, and take his role as a department manager in the company, where I've been since. So it's been 5 years kind of in the tourism industry. We've had COVID for 2 or 3 years, depends on how you look at it. We had about 9 good months in 2023. And since then, we've had this war from October 23 and still going. We're the 10th of June, unbelievably, 2025 now. So 5 years in the tourism industry, which were all very unique, different years.
So in the middle of that, one thing we haven't mentioned is, did you get called up for the IDF? Why did you get called up for the IDF?
So obviously October 7th happened, which I'm sure all of your listeners have heard a lot about. October 7th happened, and I was actually not called up until February 2024. So most of the reserve IDF army, which is really the largest part of the IDF, the reservists, were called up on October 7th, October 8th, for quite a long time. Most of them were released around February. At that point, they needed to bring obviously more reservists. So I was kind of being held, or they were waiting with my unit until February, which is when they first called us up. And since then, I've been called up 3 times to reserves and another time in a few weeks. So the IDF, obviously without going into too much detail, is in a way dependent on the reserve force. The reserve force is anyone who's served his 3-year army service, which everyone has to do in Israel. Every man has to do 3 years. Every woman has to do 2 years. So the reserves is anyone who's finished those years and stays on some kind of duty. It's mainly combat soldiers who are still in reserves and have been in active duty since. And I'm one of those combat soldiers, and I was called up again 3 times. Will be called up again in a few weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that when we took our first group post October 7th, I think it was, we all decided, yeah, let's pray for Avishai, just encourage him, you know, in the whole situation. I think it was the next day you got called up. So you said,
Exactly.
Your groups are no longer allowed to pray for me.
Never pray for me again. Completely out of the blue. I was called up the next day. So, yeah.
So one of the things that has, well, one of the huge things that has frustrated us is the propaganda that we hear. And I mean, it's hard not to hear propaganda. What effect has it been for you living in the land? What effect was it for you as an IDF? Hearing all this propaganda, what's that like for you?
So it's not easy. Actually, October 8th, I think I was looking online and I saw there was a huge demonstration. There were many demonstrations pro-Israel, but there were actually, even the day after the terrible attack of October 7th happened, there was a pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, really, demonstration somewhere in the US. I can't recall where, which for me was, I can't get it. I mean, you saw what happened on October 7th, and you went to demonstrate in favor of that, not in favor of the people who were attacked Israel. So that for me and for many Israelis was completely shocking. And since then, obviously, we've seen massive demonstrations in some of the highest educational institutions in the world, in Harvard University and others. It's shocking for us, for Israelis, to see that. Most Israelis also don't get it. I mean, you know, we're a small country, tiny country. We were attacked terribly, one of the worst terror attacks in history, and we're responding, you could say aggressively, but probably rightfully so. And they're demonstrating against us. So it doesn't make really any sense for most Israelis. At the same time, many Israelis are, you know, we're thinking twice about traveling sometimes abroad, which is incredible. We saw just a few weeks ago 2 young Jewish people who were killed in Washington, D.C. You've heard of the story outside the Israeli embassy in D.C. I mean, who would have imagined in the U.S. that would have happened? And we're seeing more and more of this anti-Semitism. And we understand it's complete anti-Semitism. That's all it is. And yesterday I read statistics about what's happening in Yemen. So we've heard about Yemen because of the Houthis, which have been attacking Israel since October 10th, I think. But in Yemen, people are starving for years. People are starving to death. Hundreds of thousands of people have died, both of a civil war and of hunger. And I didn't see one demonstration in any of these universities, in any of the capitals of the world against this. Just yesterday, there was this flotilla towards Gaza with Greta Thunberg, I think her name is. Why didn't she go to Sudan, where there's millions of people starving to death every day? Why did she come to Israel? Why to Gaza? There's so many other terrible things happening in the world right now. And of course, what's happening in Gaza is terrible. Nobody's saying otherwise. People are suffering there, absolutely. Civilians are also dying, although it's in a ratio that's never been heard of before in terms of how many civilians are being killed, sadly, compared to how many militants are being killed. The ratio is extremely, I don't use a positive word, but it's very low compared to other wars where many more civilians have been killed. And what's happening is terrible, of course. Nobody is saying otherwise. But when I hear personally, as somebody who's served in the IDF and reserves, as somebody who's very connected to what's happening in the news, when I hear things like you're killing babies on purpose, I was in there. Trust me, I'm not in there to kill anyone. I'm not in there to kill obviously any babies. I mean, the stories that we hear, the propaganda against Israel, against IDF soldiers is insane. When I go to reserves, first of all, I leave a family behind. I leave my wife, I leave my now 10 months old baby behind. I don't go in there for revenge. I don't go in there to kill in any way. Absolutely not. What I go is for a few reasons. One, we still have hostages being held in Gaza. I think it's 55 now that are being held. And two, first of all, for my people, but second of all, for the sake of Palestinians, I want to free Gaza from Hamas. Until Hamas is no longer there, until these terrorists who did what they did on October 7th to Israel and have also killed thousands of civilians in Gaza, thousands of Palestinians who were trying to get aid or who were connected in some way to the IDF, trying to get hostages, all kinds of stories. If we want Gaza to be free, if we want things to change, then we need to get rid of Hamas. And me going in there as a reservist is also for this. So saying I'm going in to try and hurt Palestinian civilians, I don't care. Why would I want to? I want them to have a great life. If they have a good life, and if they stop wanting to destroy our people, the Jewish people in Israel, I'll have a better life. But sadly, that's not the case. And hearing this propaganda, it both hurts. We know it's not personal. It is in a way, but we don't take it personally. But it's insane and it makes no sense. And I think anyone logical can understand its propaganda. And I see it as complete anti-Semitism. Again, why would anyone focus so much on Israel and the Jewish people and the hard things that are happening in Gaza, which they are, even though I can explain every one of them. But still, it's tough compared to what's happening in countries like Sudan, Somalia, Yemen, where many, many worse things are happening.
Yeah, I know with Greta, I mean, this is just such a crazy situation where I'm sure you saw the clip that she put out right before the IDF got to their boat saying, I've been kidnapped. Please get Sweden to help. It's like saying that you're being kidnapped. I mean, it spits in the face of the hostages who actually literally were kidnapped and have been held in their situation, and just absolute nonsense. And then also the clip then comes out of all of them on that boat throwing their phones, laptops into the sea. It's like, wait, this person who apparently is a big environmentalist, save the planet, save the ocean, the ozone layer, all this kind of stuff. Apparently that applies everywhere, just not there around Israel. No, just throw everything into the ocean.
Yeah.
And then they were taken to go and watch this. I think it's like almost a 45-minute clip of the footage that was filmed live during October 7th from Hamas, the GoPros that they're all wearing. And they all turned their backs when they realized what it was and refused to watch it. So she's now this human rights person who wants to go and help everyone. And I guess, Gazan lives, let's go save the Gazans. But when it comes to what's happened to Israel and the Jewish people, doesn't want to know anything about it.
Yeah. And
I think that
another
kind
thing
of exposes the heart behind her and what she's wanting to do.
So another thing about this Greta situation is she was trying to bring in 50 kilograms of flour. 50 kilograms, that's it. When you look at what Israel has brought in aid into Gaza and other countries, including the United States and European countries, it's tons and tons and tons of aid, mainly in food supplies, such as flour. So Israel, with my taxpayer money, has brought in way more aid in flour and in other things like she wanted to bring than she was going to bring with this whole show and 12 people in the ocean for days. And what was she going to do? 50 kilograms of flour, which, by the way, I think I saw the IDF is actually going to add aid to our trucks that go into Gaza with our aid. So it's going to get there in the end, but it won't affect anything. What's 50 kilograms compared to what we've already done? So it's all a show and it's all ridiculous.
Now, the sad thing is, this has affected the church in our perception. We, as you know, travel many countries, and we talk about Israel, and we are shocked at how many people are totally committed into what the media says about, well, what isn't true about Israel and about the whole conflict. So have you seen an effect of the false reporting on tourism?
And have you had groups even contacting you saying, hey, I'm seeing this, that, and the other, and therefore either cancelling or questioning what's going on?
Definitely. And I'll even backtrack a bit and speak about tours here as a whole, because 2023, up to October 7th, obviously, was going to be probably a record-breaking year in tourism to Israel. A large part of it due to mostly Christian tours, groups coming to Israel. On October 7th, I think we had over 250 tours just at Sarel, at our company, traveling the country at the same time. That day and the days after, and up to October 10th, 15th, we had everyone leave the country. Obviously, for safety reasons, where it really wasn't so safe to be here. Obviously, us civilians, we stayed and we've been okay, obviously. But we wanted to get our groups out, especially due to flight cancellations and for other reasons. And since then, we've had tours come in. We've had especially groups of solidarity and serving, such as your groups, which have been incredible. But many other groups, most other groups, are still waiting and canceling their groups for 2024 and some for 2025, waiting for this to end, for the war to end. Now, you've been here. You can testify as well as I can how safe the country feels in 99% of the areas. In fact, you've been to the Gaza border or pretty close to it, and I'm sure you can testify as to how safe you felt there. But when you see on the news, which is what you were speaking to, whatever news channel it is, war, rockets, people killed here, people killed there, and that's all you see. To be honest, it's hard for me to blame someone who that's all he knows and he doesn't hear anything else, not wanting to come here and asking if it's not safe. So we get many people asking whether it's safe or not, and still, factually, we're probably at about 5% in terms of groups coming here than where we're supposed to be at this time of year, which tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah. And actually, we, on our first trip after October 7th. It was not long after it, so it was still a pretty tense situation. Off the back of that, we did have a security guard with us the whole time, and since that trip, though, we haven't had one, because we're glad we had him. There's a guy called Avi, and he's a really good guy. And there were things that happened that the group don't know about that were a little tricky along the way. But at the end of it, we said to everyone, and even on the Gaza Strip when we were right there on the border, you could hear every now and again some pretty loud explosions, which we don't know how close they were. But at the end of that trip, we said to people, did you at any point feel like you were in danger? Were you scared? And everyone said no. They all felt completely safe. Even that moment when there were a few very loud explosions on that southern border with Gaza, even then people jumped like anyone would if there was like a loud explosion or someone just, yelled at you suddenly and you weren't expecting it. You jump, but none of them felt like they were in danger or they weren't safe. And so since then, we've had 3 more after that, and we've not had a security guard with us because everyone, when they get there, they may be nervous beforehand, just like you've said, because they just see what's been plastered around in the media. But once they get there, they're like, oh, it doesn't feel that dangerous here, actually.
We've had teenagers come, we've had teenage girls come. We've had fathers bring their daughters to come. And, well, I say to people, which is a flip side of this, down the line, you will be one of very few on this planet who can say, I was there. And I think that's important on multiple levels. It's important for them personally. They have something in their history now that they can say, I did this. But it's also, from our perception, important for Israel that there are people who can go and say, but I was there. And I can bear witness to what I saw, the people I listened to, and what I heard. And on a spiritual level, I would say every single person who came, their lives were changed forever. For us, and we've been coming for
16 years.
16 years, something like that. And we say to people, if you've been before, do not place it in the same category as going now. It's a different experience. It's a different land. The people are different. You come back almost as a first visit. To us, in a way, we've been 4 or 5 times after October the 7th, but we can't equate it from before. And I don't think our trips will ever be the same after this, because we're not the same.
Yeah, I think that it was fairly standard that if Christian groups came on tours, they would go to Yad Vashem. Is a pretty standard thing. I think probably almost all of them, you would know better than I do, to Yad Vashem. I personally don't know how you can go back to Israel post October 7th and not address that. It being the biggest thing to happen to Israel, to the Jewish people since the Holocaust, and what we just come back, do regular tours again, and we ignore the impact of that day, not just on Israel, but globally as well. So, like Daphne said, I'm not sure when we get to the other side of all of this, whatever that looks like, I don't really know how we would ever go back to just doing trips the way we did before. I think something has to change going forward. Yeah. That's not a you or the company policy, but for people listening from us, please consider on future trips, if you take them, doing something that talks about October 7th and the impact of that day, and how that changed things going forward.
So Avishai, why do you think in these circumstances particularly, why do you think it's important that people come?
Yeah. So you've just testified to this yourself, how Israel has changed you also spiritually, or mainly spiritually. I think that was definitely right before October 7th. And again, we've hosted hundreds of thousands of people over the years, and we've seen many lives changed, and we've seen many people understand the depth and the greatness of God's covenant with Israel, with the Jewish people, God's incredible grace to his people. And we've seen people come to that understanding here and continue to come since. It's kind of an addiction in a way. And they just keep on coming because every time you're here in Israel, from what I hear, again, I live here, but even for me, it's spiritual being here. There is something here. There's something about this place, and obviously, it testifies to God's incredible covenant and His covenant-keeping relationship with Israel. And since October 7, I think what's happened, and this is what's happened to your groups, is you can feel both the weight of what happened on October 7th and what this covenant between God and Israel also means, which also means that stuff like October 7th can happen, and obviously it happens to other countries in the world, but this one's a bit different in a way, and you can feel the it's an incredible thought to understand that even despite October 7th and the Holocaust, which you've just talked about, Yad Vashem, even despite that, this people have still continued. This people will continue forever, and God's covenant remains. And I think that seeing that, and people don't speak about this often, but what could have been on October 7th, what happened was terrible. It could have been 20 times worse. You think if Hezbollah in the north and Iran would have joined the attack on that day, I don't imagine. Really, I don't imagine what would have happened, because it would have been 20 times worse. But it's that sort of small miracle or big miracle that you can see and understand when you're here. And it's also about connecting with the people, which you've done incredibly well on your tours. And I've seen the change it's had both on locals, on Israelis, and both on you and people coming here for a tour. Because we know that God calls us to cry with those who are crying, to feel sorry with those who are going through something, for empathy. And after October 7th, I was here in the office on October 8th. We were all working. We were extremely busy getting everyone out. But everyone, literally everyone, had tears in their eyes while they're working. It was a terrible day, and October 7th was a horrible day. And people are suffering, are still suffering. I've mentioned this, the hostages. We still have 55 hostages. About 20 are alive that are kept in Gaza for over 600 days. It's insane. And you can connect with the people who are suffering, and it's more than regular suffering because there is something spiritual in the suffering. And at the same time, it will affect locals. I think you can probably testify to this better than me, but I've heard the question, why are you here during a war? So many times with groups coming here during this war, and I'm sure you can speak to this even more.
From our perspective, particularly as Gentiles, first of all, Jewish people, we have seen, I have sobbed in the streets of Jerusalem with Jewish people when we've talked to them. I've had them in my arms crying, and encounters like that. We reach out to Jewish people in the UK, we reach out to Jewish people in America. Wherever we go, we look for a coffee shop that sells kosher, and we will go there because we know we will meet Jewish people. Last night we were in London with Jewish people. We stopped on the streets and we talked to them, and they said, you are the first people who aren't Jewish who've asked us how we are.
Post-October 7th.
Post-October the 7th.
One of them said no non-Jew has gone to him to see how he's doing since October 7th. That is crazy.
So we make it a lifestyle to go to people, and we quite simply say to them, we've just come to let you know you're not alone. And then the conversation goes on from there. But a huge part of this going to the land from our perspective, one is to fulfill the command of Jesus to comfort his people. That wasn't a suggestion. It was, if my son was in trouble and I'd say, Abishai, comfort my son. If you love me to any extent, you'll reach out, you'll do what you can for Andrew. And so for us, it's obedient. Bottom line, no matter what the media says, what's going on, it's a command. And most believers want to obey the commands of the Bible. Well, we're very simplistic. That's what it says. Then that's what we do. And when do we do it if it's not in the time of deep, deep trouble for the Jewish people?
I guess some of the commands we can do when it's convenient for us.
Don't even go there.
Okay.
So, but then it's how do you comfort? How do you comfort? And we call it the power of presence. It's being present with the people. It's we sometimes talk about how when Jesus, Yeshua, was in Gethsemane, he was deserted by the disciples. They couldn't watch with him. And then his father had to desert him. It was when you're left alone in your troubles, it is a psychological fact that your pain increases. And so we do not think, and we're a bit radical, or I don't know what we are, but we don't think emails. And may I say, emails are good, prayer is good, giving is good, 100%. But we've got to go beyond that and go and be present. And he said, share in the fellowship of his suffering. Fellowship is being there together. It's in relationship. It's being present. And so we have a huge, huge passion for people to go and be present with the Jewish people in this time. As Gentiles, this is our tragedy as well as it's your tragedy, because we get to be grafted in.
And people sometimes will say, yeah, but what Israel is doing, there's a yes, but what, like, we should go comfort his people. Well, yeah, but it's like no other country in the world would we do that. If there's something happens in another country and people are decimated, a natural disaster or even a war or something like that, and we say we need to go and help the people in this country, people would be like, yeah, there are people there that need help. They wouldn't say, yes, but that government. Like, that's not something that people say. You don't go and comfort people on condition that the government is doing everything that you agree with. And so in this situation, whether you agree with what Israeli government does or not, I'm sure we all disagree with different things that they do, as you would every country on earth. Some governments do things you like. Sometimes they do things you don't like. But that doesn't make you comforting the people that live there conditional on the government. And so, I think it's just a glaring double standard again, which people hold over Israel that they don't hold over any other nation on earth.
So what would you say to people listening now as a Jewish person living in Israel through this period of time, not necessarily as a tour operator, but what would you say as I, Abishai, and my family to the people about why it's important for us to come?
So this is especially strong after October 7th, but it's been right. It's been the same for the last forever, since God's covenant with Abraham. There is something significant, extremely significant, about connecting with God's heart for Israel and for the Jewish people. Obviously, I'm saying that as a Jewish person who is also a believer in Yeshua. And I'm saying it as someone who lives here, so I could be biased. But I don't think I am, because there is something extremely important about understanding God's love, covenant keeping, and heart for Israel. And after October 7th, like you've said, it's just so much more real. You can feel it. You can feel the weight. You can feel the suffering of the people. At the same time, you see that the country, people are life is continuing, which many other countries, if they would have gone through an attack like October 7th, life would have, in a way, stopped. But the people here are strong. And what brings in this strength? It's questions that come up when you're here. But if we say that we love God and we love the Bible, I don't see how you can read, for example, the book of Isaiah and not see God's incredible love for Israel, the fact that he will never leave them. And it can not only strengthen your connection with God's heart for Israel, it can, I think, definitely strengthen your own faith. Because if you see that despite everything Israel has done, the Jewish people, for 4,000 or 5,000 years, we've gone against God every time we had the chance. We betrayed God in a way, every time we had the chance. And despite that, God has kept his covenant and has abounding grace for his people Israel. And if he has that much faith for his people Israel, then what does he have for me personally? So coming here, and it's not necessarily coming here, it's first just asking God, what is it that you love about that you keep this covenant with Israel? Why is it so important? And if we love God and we love the Bible, then we need to love what he loves. And we need to try and figure out why and what is it in this relationship. And it will deepen our own personal faith. And coming here and seeing it with your own eyes, and of course, seeing the places that are real. I mean, Jerusalem is here, 10 miles from here. It's a real place. Jesus, Yeshua, actually walked there. Peter, the disciples, Paul, they were here. They were literally here. And it all happened. It's all real. God's covenant is real. And this is a place, I think there's no other place like it, where you can really see it. Of course, you can, God has a personal relationship with everyone. I believe everybody wants it. But there's no other nation that has a covenant still to this day, I think, with God such as Israel. So being here and seeing it with your own eyes can change your own faith, can give you more depth. And like you said, it will affect the people here, and you're obeying a command to comfort his people. So you're getting so much out of just being here. I think there's no other place like it. And I'm saying that obviously living here. But there is something special about coming to Israel, and especially since October 7th.
Well, we say, to sum up about Israel, we say there is no other nation on the planet where you can stand in the past, the present, and the future in one moment of time. We have been to over 40 nations during our ministering in them. And so we feel kind of qualified to be able to say it's a nation like no other. It really, really is. But I just want to say before we close, Avishai, how you have been the confidence behind us coming in a way. We come with confidence because we know one call, and we have Avishai on the end helping us to figure things out. And I don't know whether we would do it without you. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank Sarel for over the years of having made it possible for us to keep coming back. And we say that from the bottom of our heart. We say it to you as the man too, of the way that you have supported us through this. And we are very, very, very thankful. And Andrew, if people want to come and you say, okay, having heard this, I want to come, will you put some links on the website, on the podcast?
Yeah, I'll put Sarel information there, and also I'll put links to trips that we've got coming up as well. So if you want to come with us, and there are some different episodes we've done where we talk about what we do on those trips post October 7th. But yeah, if you want to come with us, come and see places impacted by October 7th, hear from survivors, different experts, hear some from biblical locations as well as opportunities to serve and help, then you can do all of those things on our trips as well. So,
and face-to-face comfort his people.
And meet face-to-face, look people in the eyes and be a comfort to them. Yeah, and that's a whole range of people. It's not just Jewish people that live in Israel. It's quite a diverse population. Even if you would hear from the media otherwise, a lot of different people groups live there. And so it's a great opportunity to be boots on the ground, see, hear, touch, and meet face to face, heart to heart with the people that have been so terribly impacted since October 7th.
And forever to be able to bear witness that you saw in this moment of time what God was doing and the truth of what is happening in the land.
Yeah. Avishai, thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
We'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Avishai.
We will see you soon, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Remember, if it inspired you, share it with others so we can see more people engaged in this community.